Hey, this is Kirk.
And this is Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd show.
Man, we are excited to have a friend of Rusty, a friend of the show, Larry Rubama, a veteran reporter for the Virginian Pilot, and we are going to cover some hot topics. We had an interview last night with a couple of former Virginia Tech players, Marcus Michael, number 1 from Denny High School, and Tony Kennedy, number 33 from Bladensburg High School. We talked about Justin Fuente. We're going to talk to Larry. He's a professional journalist about Justin Fuente parting ways. We know he knows a lot more than us. We're also going to talk about the great second round of the high school playoffs coming up. We've got Oscar Smith, Green Run, etc. And then UVA has a big game this weekend, Larry, and we know you know a little bit about that. We want to cover JMU football, going to the Sun Belt, as well as ODU sports, football and basketball. They're down in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach this weekend. So I'm going to turn it over to Rusty. That go-go music was Chuck Brown. Shout out to all the Virginia Tech Hokie football players, sons of Chuck Brown. We did that go-go for Larry. And Rusty, you guys have been friends. We're going to start off talking a little bit about Larry's background.
Yeah, so I'm just pleased to have you on the show, Larry. I was blessed to meet you through my brother Melendez down in Norfolk. So Larry, you're special because our show, we're two guys, former athletes from the 757, but we live in the 703 DMV. You originally from this area, all right? That's where your roots are. You were an athlete. We'll get into that in the WCAC, the toughest conference in the country in athletic high school sports. But an area that can compete, especially on the public school level, is the 757. And you are an expert in that area. So, Larry, please, thank you for being on the show, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Larry, tell us a little bit about, we know, like Kirk said, you currently are a columnist and writer for the Virginia Pilot and Daily Press. You cover sports, you cover high school, college, and a lot of different things. But tell us about your roots, where you're from, where you went to school. You were an athlete.
Yes. Decent athlete. Was born in Syracuse, New York, lived up there, got to middle school. My mother moved us to the DC area, went to Falls Church High School for 2 years. And then my mother—
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yep. My mother said I needed discipline, and so she took me out of Falls Church and put me in good counsel. All boys at that time. Did not like that, but I didn't realize how I was opening myself up to a whole nother world. We went there to good counsel, and the thing that was so funny is I realized now I laugh, but one of the questions they asked was, "Are you involved in any extracurricular activities?" I was like, "Yeah, I ran track," and I believe my mother laughed. She said, "What does sports got to do with Because we didn't realize what the there was the WMAC then. We didn't realize how big of a sports conference it was. And so I was all district at Falls Church High School, played basketball, played football. Basketball, baseball, and track. And then I gave, track and basketball were my loves. But my coach, when I got to good counsel, said, "Look, you got a chance to earn a scholarship if you stick with track." And that's what I did. I ended up running track there. Was all state in both indoor and outdoor. And the guys who beat me out from all state, I actually beat in other races, but because we were a private school, we couldn't compete in the state track meet. Right. So we took a team up with 7 athletes up to I'll never forget, the Baltimore Armory, and ran against the best that they had in the state. And we won the track meet. And I won.
Wow.
We with 7 guys. I still got the story that I looked at.
Wow. What were your events?
I ran the 500 in indoor. I think I only lost like 2 times. It was to nobody in the state. And then I was a 300-meter hurler. And me and the guy who got first team all state, we ran against each other 3 times. I beat him 2 out of the 3 times. And
go ahead.
He got first team because we were private school, nobody. And what was crazy was, even though I was named second team all state, both indoor and outdoor, we couldn't even make our own Montgomery County all team because we were a private school. So it was going on, but track ended up allowing me to go to Ohio University, where at that time was ranked one of the top journalism schools in the country. I was being recruited by Syracuse, Michigan, North Carolina, but the only one I really felt serious. You know how people say they were recruited. The only school that was really serious in terms of a big Division I school was Ohio University, and went on my visit, and you know, I went there, and I was named all MAC 2 years as a 400-meter hurler. Finished.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, finished 7th one year, finished 5th another year. Was all Central Collegiates. When we ran against Central Collegiates, it was all the Big Ten schools, the MAC schools, including Notre Dame. And I finished 5th at the Central Collegiates. My last race was at the university, at Notre Dame University. And then I kind of knew I wasn't going to the Olympics or anything like that. And so I decided I wanted to be a sports reporter, which is why I went to Ohio University. And things took off from there. One interesting story is I went to a church called St. Augustine's. And while I was at St. Augustine's, there was a reporter, I'll never forget her, named Dorothy Gilliam. She wrote for the Washington Post for years, was the first black female, was the first black female at the Washington Post. She came to my church and said,
Dorothy Gilliam,
you know, if you could have a dream job, what would it be? So mine at that time, I was really, really into baseball. I said I wanted to be a baseball player. And so she said, I'll come back to you. So she went on the room and talked to people about being a lawyer, doctor, you know, all that stuff that people say they want to do. And she came back to me and she says, look, if you can't play the sport, why not write about it? I was in the 8th grade when she told me that. And from that day, I knew I wanted to be a sports reporter. And that's what I ended up doing. And I followed that dream. I figured, you know, it was a way to still be around sports and still tell other people's stories. And that's how I got into sports writing. So even while I'm here, when I'm in the 757, going to different schools, I talk to as many athletes as I can to let them know, if you can't play the sport, why not write about it? And it's a way to still be involved in sports. And here I am, almost 29 years in the business, both radio, you know, I've done a little bit of TV, but mostly radio and newspaper. And it's a chance to be able to be right up and close with athletes. And that's why I try to push the other athletes. If you can't play the sport, why not write about it? So that's how I got into it.
Man, that's great. And so you not only you're doing something you love. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's another thing. It's like, it's not a grind if you love what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And so we talked about this before we came on. Like, I love sports. Like, it's funny. So with my bald head, and I used to wear glasses back in, people, because they know I love sports, but I'm always talking sports, watching sports, people always call me Michael Wilbon. And they will be like, yo, Rusty, you missed your calling. You should have been, you know, a journalism, been a writer, sports. And so, yeah, I didn't get that talk. Nobody told me about writing. I probably wouldn't have, but this is what I may not write sports, but I can talk sports. You know, like you and I, we just hit it off first time I met, and like
right away.
Hey, that's just what I like to play. And so many people, friends, they're like, hey, how do you know so much about sports? I'm like, I just like with Sports Talk Radio. When I first moved to the DC area, and Tony Kornheiser had a radio show, I just listened to it, and so now we have podcasts. And so my point is this, bro, like, I'm doing this because it's a passion, but I also work in the government, but I love it. And I'm just, man, what you doing that, man, that's inspiring, you know, because also when you started, you didn't have, I'm sure, a lot of African-American role models, did you?
No, there weren't many at all. And what was I'm a person who's a big believer in God, and I see how things work out, you know, and one of the things that ended up being was I came to DC for a big, huge journalism conference, and somebody said, hey, you know, there's a professor at Ohio University who teaches sports writing. And I was like, I had never seen no black person at Ohio University when I was there. He came my last semester, and I was actually a broadcast news major, already did an internship at CNN in DC, was set to do TV, took his class and changed my whole life around. And I got sports writing. He taught me how to really, really do sports writing, not just about the numbers and things, but to really learn about the people, the different topics that come about. And it's interesting. He came in town this weekend. He came to visit me. I haven't seen him in about probably about 2 or 3 years. And we go back to I'm gonna date myself, but we go back to 1988. I took his class as a college senior, and he changed my life. And to this day, you know, different story ideas I throw off of him. He was not only my professor, but I went to, when he ended up becoming a sports editor, he hired me as my first sports writing job. Is that crazy?
Man, so look, Kirk, I'm gonna let you talk, but I would say this. Larry, you are a professional. You just covered my first 5 questions. All right? You just answered them, bro. You just like who? So outside of the people you mentioned, because those probably could have been your answer. Can you tell me somebody else that might have influenced you for the career you have, or even outside of sports? Just were there any role models that you actually knew, or you just observed from afar?
Well, first one I gotta say is Dorothy Gilliam, because she's the one that got me into sports. My second, my mother, she's my biggest one. She told me, you won't make it in this business because you're not assertive enough. And I was like, what? She's more assertive. You're gonna be a sports reporter, you're gonna eaten up. You're too nice of a person. You gotta learn how to be more forceful. You gotta be able to ask questions. You gotta have a personality. And so because of her saying that, that drove me to want to prove her wrong. And she tells me to today. So I proved her. So she was, definitely my biggest one. And she really
like my mom.
Oh man. She was no joke, still no joke. And then, like I said, Justice Hill, the one that got me into this business, he really pushed me as a writer to think beyond just the basic numbers. It's more than that. You got to be able to tell people stories.
Yeah.
And then a writer who I read a lot, who I love the way he writes, is Bob Nightingale. At the time, he was out in California, and the way he told stories, he didn't say, Rusty Byrd carried the ball 25 times for 300 yards to lead his team to a victory.
I like that though, but that would have been nice.
But he would tell a different story. And look, his story would be like, hey, Rusty, who had a brother Melendez, they grew up, and he would just tell the story in a way that a normal person would want to read it. Not a sports person, but any person. And the biggest compliments I get even to this day is I get 80 and 90-year-old women who say, you know what? I don't read a sports page, but the way you tell a story makes me want to read it. That's it.
Wow.
I can do that. Yeah. I knew then that I was doing it. So I really do my research, because you can't just go out there and find those things. You got to do your research. You got to know the players. You got to get to know the players, the coaches, the family. And you find those different questions that are beyond sports. One question I said, when did you know you were good? And the kid would say, huh? And you get to hear different stories. The kid will tell a hardship about how, hey, I was the last kid of 7 in my family. Everybody else was doing their thing. I realized I got to find a passion for something. And that's when you find those good stories, is when you really take time, go beyond the playing field, the court, the diamond. Those, when you find the good stories, when you find out what really makes a person, what pushes them, what motivates them, what do you were earlier, passion. Passion is the key to everything. If I didn't have passion, out of this business, but because of passion, I love to tell other people's stories. And on my Twitter page, I even say I got into this business to tell other people's stories.
Yeah.
Larry, I went to get an ice cream cone to treat myself for working all day, and I read your story on DJ Dozier from Penn State, great DJ Dozier, Penn State, Kempsville, and Virginia Beach, Major League Baseball player. And it was right with what you're talking about. I love the story. It was more of a story as opposed to, a straw man sketch with just a sports.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, really enjoyed that.
Yeah. So go ahead.
The biggest compliment he gave me, and we're now we're friends. I'm friends with DJ Dozier. The biggest compliment he gave me was, he says, Larry, I've had a lot of people write stories about me. He says, Larry, but that story was me. He said, that's the best story anybody's written. Now, he could have been blowing smoke, but he was like, Larry, and to this day, I see him at different events. We talk, because he's a very private person. And so you try to tell that person's story. And to this day, that story ran 2 years ago, and it's still getting hits as we keep going on. It's still getting hits. Another one that keeps going on is a story I wrote about, Tim Montgomery went to prison, was in prison, had a daughter who's a big time athlete who's now running at Florida. I see your shirt, Kirk, running at Florida. Right? And it's a story that I wrote 5 years ago. Matter of fact, no, it's been 7 years ago. She was like 9 years old, 10 years old at AAU meet. And I talked to her about her father who was in prison at the time. And I tell that story. And every year when we come back up to look at, who's read what stories, that story always has over 1,000 hits. And the story ran 7, 8 years ago. So it's one other thing you gotta do is I know what it was like to be interviewed. I have stories that I still keep when I was being interviewed, and stories written about me. And you want to make sure you tell a person's story the correct way, but you also try to find a way to make them a human being, a regular person. And there's nothing like it. I still say the biggest dream I ever had was I was written about. I have a story that I wrote that was written about me that appeared in the Washington Post. Then 30 years later, I wrote a story that got into the Washington Post. I covered, in fact, the Lyles brothers, the ones, the ones.
Oh, yeah.
Lyles, yeah.
I wrote a story about them.
George Marshall High School. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I wrote this story about them, and to me, it was like, wow. I told my mom, I said, Mom, buy the Washington Post. I got a story that's going to be in there the next day. And she bought it, and I kept that story and the story that was written about me. We won the WMAC championship meet. We broke some record, and I had a really good meet that day. And so I got to see those two stories. Like, wow, I've done it. Not only was I written about, but I also wrote for the paper, and that to me was huge, man. I'll never forget that. Never forget that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff.
Now, Larry, one thing I was just sitting here thinking is that we may talk about this later, but you're in the largest market without a professional sports team. But we may have time to talk about professional sports in Hampton Roads. However, you're in a really good sports town. I mean, we can't call it Norfolk because there's 7 cities. We got to call it Tidewater or the Hampton Roads. But that is a sports crazy town. Matter of fact, I might get myself in some hot water. Rusty, you can chime in, and Larry, you can chime in. Hampton Roads is a better sports town than Washington, D.C. I don't think Washington, D.C. is much of a sports town, but you're in the cradle of people that love all the sports. You've got the Tidewater team. I'm thinking Tidewater Tides. I know what they are.
Norfolk Tides.
Yeah, Norfolk Tides, and you've got all those ODU, Hampton, Norfolk State. You've got the colleges. You've got Virginia, UVA, Redskins, WFT, et cetera. So you are in, a hotbed. So as we said, we wanted to get to some topics. And before we got on, I told you, if you're like all Ohio Bobcats, you're going to point out that it's the best academic school in Ohio. I've heard that one before. Better than Ohio State. Whenever I meet an Ohio person, they have to tell me that. So, you're the big news, and I'm sure, in the newsroom and the chatter. Yesterday morning, Justin Fuente parted ways. They had a mutual agreement. And want to just get your thoughts on that, what you thought about Virginia Tech and Fuente parting ways, as well as the direction that Virginia Tech is going.
First, I'll be amiss if I didn't say my wife, she heard about it. And her name is Wanda. And the one thing she said was, when I told her how much money he was getting to leave, to be fired, she was like, wow, he get paid that much money to be fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said, you're in the wrong profession. I said, yeah, you're right. I am. But, you kind of saw the writing on the wall. He started off great. But the one thing I'll tell you, and this is from covering this area, is the number of athletes, or I should say the lack of athletes from the 757 going to Virginia Tech has dropped off tremendously. There was a time when I used to put together, I do a thing to do the top 50 high school players, high school seniors, that comes out every year. We've been doing it since about 2007. And in the beginning, we'd have 10 to 15 athletes going there every single year. Right. And this year, this class that's getting ready to graduate right now, we got 2 people going to Virginia Tech.
Right.
2. Before, I covered D'Angelo Hall, I covered
Cam Chancellor,
Tab, all those guys who were going there, but it's just dropped off. So when you see that, you're not recruiting. Well, I'm not saying he's not recruiting, but to not get those guys from the 757 to go to Virginia Tech, something's wrong. And I could see it going shortly. Then there was a guy, he had a real good recruit. John Burden was one of the recruits from
John Burden. Yep, ODU guy, went to Virginia Beach, right? I believe
was getting a lot of players going to Virginia Tech. He's gone. And now he's at Maryland getting the 757 players. So you could kind of see that attention, the excitement isn't how it used to be. And I don't know if it's Fuentes, I don't know whose fault it is, but somebody is lacking. And it's not the same. When you say Virginia Tech, everybody's hyped up, excited about it. Now it's kind of like Virginia Tech. Okay, we've got Penn State. You got all these teams are coming into this area, taking our players. And I wrote a story about it. About how many North Carolina,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Dre Block, he's killing it. Yeah. I was at a football game 3 weeks ago. They had a game on Saturday. Friday night, he's here. He's already got 4 of our top players going there already.
Yeah.
including the kid he got, the Grimes kid. He got the Grimes kid was, I mean, he's just.
Awesome.
Then he got the kid from Oscar Smith, who ended up going.
Kid from Christian. What's the big lineman?
Yeah, he got the lineman from Phoebus, Stevenson. I mean, so they're hitting this area. So when you see those type of players not going to Tech, you know something's wrong. I mean, I don't care how many players you get from Texas and from Florida. You got to get players from Virginia to go to Virginia Tech. I mean, same thing. I think Virginia maybe has 5 guys from the 757 at Virginia. So, when London was there, oh my gosh, he was killing it. He had, it didn't translate into victories that he needed to stay there, but you at least had people excited about those schools because they're there. Then I'll throw it another way. Look at JMU. I did a story, I went up to cover JMU last week. We got 16 players from the 757 playing at JMU, including the quarterback, Cole Johnson, DeMonte Tucker Dorsey, the linebacker, and they got Wayne Davis, who is at Ohio State, who transferred in and is at JMU. So JMU is like, people love JMU now. So you got to recruit the area. This 757, if you're gonna be that people want to talk about you.
How about in the journalist world?
Yeah,
there's a lot of chatter. You got more time to listen. What's on the scanner. What are you hearing? Because something that hit today was, and by the way, we don't know, but is Whit Babcock really has his eye on Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. And Rusty, we didn't mention him last night.
Right.
I mean, what are you hearing about next candidates? There's a lot of things they want to keep it a hokey.
Right. I've heard that. Right. I heard there was even talk, and I know this won't happen, that Beamer's son, why would he leave to come here? That's not going to happen. But I've heard the Coastal Carolina coach has been getting a lot of attention. I even heard
Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, the Liberty.
Oh, Hugh Freeze.
Yeah,
Hugh Freeze.
Right. Freeze. Yeah. What he's done there. But I was just talking about that today at lunch. Would you want to leave a Wake Forest to come to Virginia Tech? Before Virginia Tech was here, and so you just wonder, would a coach leave Georgia Tech to come to Virginia Tech? I don't know. But
no.
Yeah. So I heard Freeze. I've heard the coach that was at Coastal Carolina. There's a couple other coaches, but nothing. Well, you want to have a sexy name. Who's out there who would be a sexy name to be able to bring there? Because you got to be.
Hey, Larry, I got a sexy name. Okay, he ain't coming because he got to have a buyout. I said Ed Orgeron. If Ed Orgeron walked up in there, bruh, he can recruit he recruits like crazy. Now I would hope he could go 757, but he can go get some of the Louisiana boys. He recruited kids from up here in Northern Virginia to play at LSU. Yeah, well, he got that contract. They can't. He's fine. He's loving being,
Yeah. Well, he had 3 kids from here that went to LSU. Now they didn't.
Right.
But he recruited from this area. He got several kids to come there. One ended up leaving and saying no and went to Maryland. Had a kid that was going to LSU, went to Maryland, and then we had another kid. There was another kid too recently within the last 5 to 5
years. We have a linebacker from Woodbridge High School who's there.
Okay. So I tell you one name that I heard, but I know it probably won't happen. Former Lansdowne coach Chris Beatty. He hasn't been a head coach, but he's been a lot of places, and that guy can recruit.
Yeah.
Now he's with the Chargers now. But I mean, he's a guy who I thought should have been interviewed at ODU, and he didn't get an interview. He was mentioned, never got an interview. But so I know, I don't know. And Chris has been around. I mean, he's been in the SEC, he's been in the Big Ten, and he's been in the ACC. And
was he at West Virginia?
Yeah, he was at West Virginia and recruited very well.
Yeah, West Virginia, Illinois, Wisconsin, Vanderbilt, Virginia.
Oh, he's put in
Maryland and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
All right, that's a new one.
He was very successful in the 757 as a coach.
Very successful. I mean, and a lot of his players have gone on to the NFL and still playing there. So it's going to be very interesting to see who they get. And I know they don't want to wait too long. I know they want to have it because I hear, as it gets towards signing day, how many people are going to lose? I mean, we only have 2 guys by 7 that are even who have verbally committed to Tech. But as you go past it, you got to get that man at the school soon because you got recruiting. I mean, next month is the early recruiting time. So,
right.
Yeah. We got some kids from up here. We actually went to go see the kid, Bryce Duke, plays for Tuscarora, running back, a tremendous athlete. We saw him play his first round game Friday. You know, he's a verbal commit, great athlete. But, you know, if you're him, like now you're wondering, like, do I want to go there or do they want me? Do they want me?
Right,
you know,
right,
so yeah, that's real.
And then
yeah,
I read somewhere else too. I think what man, you got how many kids are gonna leave to go into the portal? I mean, every time you look around, the portal just keeps growing. So how many kids are gonna leave?
Right.
You know, especially if you don't know who the coach is gonna be. If you're a senior, you don't want to go into your senior year not knowing who your coach is gonna be. So you might think about let me go to the transfer portal. Everybody goes there.
Well, and we're going to talk about high school sports next, but I will say this. I was just talking to my son's coach. My son plays at Bishop Price. He's a decent little player. He's been on recruiting trips to Penn State last week. He's going back to Maryland, been to UNC. Dre Bly is talking to my son. Virginia Tech hasn't even done anything. But my point is this.
And then there you go, Rusty, right there, right?
Yeah. So this is the other thing, though. This is the point, is that I'm talking to his coach, and what he's saying is, this transfer portal, bro, we might have to do a whole show on this. It's hard now for high school seniors to get scholarships because with the transfer portal and that COVID extra year kids are getting, just think about it. If you're a major program, if you're a Power 5 or even Group 5, if I can go to the transfer portal and get a kid I've seen 2 years of college film on, he's already got that body. I've got tape on him really doing it. You know, I've got his GPA. I know he can actually do the curriculum, you know, and some of these kids have an extra 5th or 6th year built in. Like, and you can, so it can work a couple of ways. You could take the kid that wasn't happy at a Power 5 and bring him to a JMU. Or what I've seen is some of those schools are coming and picking the best kids from the subdivision. Like that kid at JMU, the receiver from Osborne High School in Manassas, just scored 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I don't remember his name, but he started out at VMI. He's at JMU. But if Michigan, Virginia Tech calls, like he might up and go because of the transfer portal. But then that high school kid, what's he gonna do?
We had a kid who was ranked in the top 50 in the state, a lineman. I mean, grades, he was 6'5", 3 something. I mean, he had everything. And he was almost ready to be able to commit to a big school, a major 5 school. And then COVID hit. Then they started getting kids his same size from the transfer portal. He ended up having to walk on.
Wow.
Who was supposed to have a full ride to having to walk on somewhere. And I talked to him about it. We talked, you know, he said, I know, you know, it's just time, you know, times are tough, you know, but they wanted me to see film on me. But of course, the season was gone. So he had to go pay. He was supposed to have no worries about money to go to college. Now he's having to put out money to walk onto a program, and who knows what's going to happen. And he took it in stride. I gave it to him. I said, man, you better than me. Because I mean, yeah. I mean, but he was a top, in fact, he was a top 25 player in the state and wasn't able to get a scholarship because, especially as a lineman, they want to see what you can do.
Yeah. Wow. So look, we talked a little bit more about specifically, we talked about those high school athletes. Let's talk about the teams in the 757. So what are some of the teams? Let us know about the team. We know some. We actually interviewed the Maury coach. We interviewed.
Oh, great! He's something. He's special.
Brandon Williams at Green Run.
He's special. He's special.
And then we interviewed some of the coaches up here in the 703. We Tuscarora coach. We talked to Mickey Thompson at Stonebridge.
Yep.
Shout out to Brandon Wilbarger at Tuscarora. They're gonna be playing tomorrow night. Yeah.
So tell us about the teams that you're really impressed with, and then I want to also talk a little bit about the Peninsula District, the Peninsula, and how it's kind of slipped or taken a step back to the other side of the water. So let us know how those things are going. Luckily, we got Hampton, but just talk about that.
Right, that's a good point you put, Rusty, because it has fallen off. Now that we cover both sides, I remember the Peninsula was, you know, that was the main thing. It's kind of fallen off, but of course, you know, you start with Oscar Smith, and what Chris Scott has done there. You know, it's a machine. You know, it doesn't rebuild; it just continues to get stronger. And you know, people talk about recruiting and all that. I said, you're at Oscar Smith, you don't have to recruit. People are gonna come to you. But that's another story for another day. But no, Brandon Williams has done an incredible job. That program was down in the dumps for several years. And he came in, and even last year, he saw some things going on, but they had a forfeited game for using an ineligible player and ended up missing the playoffs. But he kept believing in those guys. So he's got those guys believing that they can play, and a lot of talent. I mean, he's got about 5 Division I athletes on there, including a kid going to Tech, kid going to North Carolina. Some really good talent. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. The only problem I see is they're going to have to play Maury sometime. So as
they're in different divisions, Larry.
No Green Run and Maury.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were, Gotcha. I'm so sorry.
5. Yeah. So they're gonna, and that's going to be the game that everybody wants to see what's
8 semifinals.
Right. And you've interviewed DeRee, so you know how he is, the passion he brings. I remember when he played as a player, and that dates me a little bit, but I remember when he played and I covered him, and then he went to Hampton. But he's a fierce competitor. He paid his dues as an assistant coach, and has got great things going on at Maury High School. You know, won a state title already, and those kids believing. The only thing I feel bad about him is I think they've only played like 6 games because of COVID with other teams, and so. But he's gonna have that team ready to go. So that's the game I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that Maury Green Run. I hope they both win and get to play each other. You know, another team that people don't talk too much about is Kings Fort. Kid that's going, they got a kid, Kyrie Moisty. He's going to Virginia Tech. Their coach is also a former Oscar Smith coach, who's an assistant, who also played for Chris Scott in high school. And so, you know, he's got his program going really, really well. And they got some good talent. I've seen them play. The only game they got beat was against Oscar Smith. They got beat, you know, kind of bad, but they were right there in the park. And as I told him, I said, you got, like, when Oscar Smith played against Bosco, you got Bosco, then you got Oscar Smith, then you got teams like Kings Fort. You know, Deep Creek's a team that I really think that's going to be a good game this week. They're gutsy, and Kempsville has a really good team. They're going to be playing this week, so I'm looking forward to see how they do as well.
That's right. Yeah, and then going down to 3, Phoebus is the top power-rated team.
Yep.
And some folks are talking about 2, Pocosin, who's done extremely well. So you know, there's some people talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 champions from out of there, but. Just real quick, can you see anybody beating Oscar Smith?
No,
in the whole thing.
You know what? The teams up north in 703. The thing about those teams up there is they not only have the number of athletes, they got the size athletes, and they got the skill. Yeah, they got it all. It's the whole package. I mean, Oscar Smith went to 7 state championships in a row and lost. You know, to
Westfield
had their number, and then the team that they lost to South County 1 year, so they won this past year. But you just never know when you get into that you get to that state championship game. Some of those teams up north just know how to play. The only thing that goes against Oscar Smith is, besides Bosco, nobody can play with them. Whole nother level, humbled them and made them really get their focus together. And I think the same thing's going to happen to Phoebus. Phoebus got humbled by that Oscar Smith beat down. But now they're going to play teams of their size. You know, I just think it's going to be, but in terms of Oscar Smith, I think when they get to that championship, we're going to see some good competition from up north, and that's when it's going to be a battle. It's who wants them more? Who wants them more than you? You both got athletes on both sides. You both got great coaches on both sides. Who's going to want them more? Who's not going to make the mistakes? Who's going to come out there? You know, you can't go out there thinking you beat a team already. Those teams don't care up north about Oscar Smith. They want to beat Oscar Smith. And that's the thing they got to realize is, we don't care Oscar Smith what. We don't care. We beat Oscar Smith. And that's what they want to prove that anyways. You know, up north wants to prove, they want to prove that they can play as well.
So one thing I'm excited about, and I'll let you go, Kirk, is that the venue. Like, they were at University. OD.
Oh,
man, I hope they never leave there. UVA was too big. ODU is perfect, bro.
It is.
And the way they've redone that stadium, I'm looking forward to that. Just sitting
there close to the field.
Yes, and I just hope that I hope we have Oscar Smith in there, and I hope we have Morey or Green Run in there because I know it's gonna be packed. They were saying before this that they wish the Bosco game against Oscar Smith would have been played at ODU, but that's gonna be a great venue. The kids are gonna be hyped up for that type of atmosphere. So I'm so glad it's gonna be at ODU. It should be a good time. It should be a real good time.
So Larry, Division 5 is also going to be played there. 3 and 4 is going to be played at Liberty, which by the way has a fantastic.
Oh man! Oh, beautiful.
So we're looking at the state semifinal, and we don't want to take anything for granted because we had Green Run, Brandon Williams, and Duree on here from Maury, but it's looking like Green Run and Maury.
Yeah.
I have a prediction. What do you think? You got to stay neutral, be in a
no.
Okay. All right, who are you picking?
If they meet each other, if I had to bet my house on it, who would you bet your house on? I would say Maury, and here's why. Maury's been there and done that. They've been there, done it. They know what it's like. They're raised close to that type of atmosphere. He's got players. He got that quarterback that he got, Saquon Miles, incredible. He's got another kid who plays a little bit like the kid that's playing at Penn State. Now I forgot his name. Lambert, who played at Penn. He plays at
DeAndre Lambert.
Yeah, he's got a kid there who's really good. They got a good running back, and those kids have been there and done that. When you have never been there and done that, it's a whole different thing. And this year too, I mean, it's not Green Run's fault, but they just ran through the beach. I mean, there was nobody that could give them a Maury played a team from North Carolina who's a powerhouse.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They've been there, they've done it. And so you got to go with somebody who's had experience. I mean, they've won the state championship. They've gone through some Highland Springs teams. In the past.
Highland Springs.
So you've been tested. You've been tested. So when you've been tested, you take that game a whole different way. And so we'll see. We'll see. But I mean, if I had I would go with Maury only because Dyree's been there before. A lot of his players have experienced it before, and they got a hunger for it. They've been there. They know what it's like to have to prepare for a state final game, to prepare for a regional championship game. They've been there. They know how to do it.
Yeah, I think that 5 is the most intriguing.
Yeah.
Because Stonebridge, they just execute extremely well.
Yes,
Rusty and I were talking until they get to Highland Springs. We don't think they'll be tested, but that's going to be a very hard out. And whichever team wins that is going to be a tough opponent for Maury or Green Run. That's going to be a great state championship.
Stonebridge, they had an extremely tough schedule this year. We went to see them beat Division 5 Freedom High School, Freedom Woodbridge. Division 6 Freedom Woodbridge. And they beat Madison, which was one of the top Division 6 schools, James Madison. They only have one loss, and that's to Stonebridge. And they could be a Division 6 opponent. So they prepared themselves. They're the defending 5 champion, and they've been there a bunch of times. So, man.
It's going to be a good time.
That Final Four.
Oh, man. And the thing about Highland
Springs. The best one.
Yeah, Highland Springs also played, talk about 757 area. Highland Springs played Vance. Well, it's not Vance anymore, right? I know you changed your name. But they played that team that was
North Carolina. New Bern.
North Carolina, that team from North Carolina. Who's coached by Farabee, who played football at Green Run and coached at Green Run and Indian River. He's down there now. They got tested. They got tested early. I think it was the first game of the season. They lost, but it was a good test against a team who's probably going to win a state title again. So you can't tell a kid how to prepare for a big game. You can tell them all you want, but you have to live it. You have to see what it's like. You can be as good as you can, but you go into a game and you start thinking how good you might be, then that team punches you in the mouth. How you respond?
Right.
And they punch you in the mouth again. How you going to respond? And so that's why, you look at a team like Maury, who's been there and done it. And you look at a team like Stonebridge has been there and done it over the years, as well as Highland Springs. They've all been there and done it. So, but I hope Green Run can get there, man. I want to see those athletes have a chance to be on that stage and be able to do it. But once again, we can't. How do you take a ticket one game in a week? You can't be looking forward to that Maury game because you might not even get there.
Right. So go ahead, Rusty.
I was like, let's talk a little bit about the Peninsula District.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So you got Phoebus, who should be a favorite for the Division III. But you know what? I'm surprised they haven't won one. The last time they won a state championship was back when it was either they were AAA or were they maybe even 5 or 6. And so I'm thinking when they went down to 4, okay, they're dominant. Oh, down to 3, they should dominate. They haven't won one yet. So that shows you these teams outside of the peninsula, they're just as good. They're just as strong. Hampton hasn't won since Tyrod. Menchville won a playoff game. Okay.
Right. Right.
Did Warwick get a W2? Or did Warwick play? No, they
No,
lost.
they lost.
But tell us about the Peninsula District. I love the people, man. I'm a Bruin. I love it. Look, Larry,
I see. I like that. Well, you know, it's interesting is when I started doing when we first started doing the top 50 high school seniors, we didn't include the Peninsula because we weren't part of the Peninsula. Then I became part of the Peninsula 3 years ago. And even to now, I mean, the South Side dominates. I mean, you have a couple players here and there, but it's a different type of, I don't know if it's the water has come onto this side or what, something about that water, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And I think that's why that game from between Phoebus and Oscar Smith was so big because, you know, even as Coach Blunt said, he says, he wanted the old school guys wanted to see, okay, finally we get a chance to play against Oscar Smith and show what we can do. And he was disappointed that they didn't put on a better show, but it was a chance just to let people see the best of the Peninsula, play the best of the South Side, and the South Side won that day. So I'm hoping they can keep that going because I just think it was packed, it was an excitement, it was a playoff atmosphere for a final regular season game. And I know the Peninsula wants to prove that we're just as good as the South Side. But right now, it's been nothing but the South Side lately.
Yeah. I know I've just been tracking and looking at the kids that make All-State. I'm looking at who makes All-State Division 5. And I'm not seeing, or even the recruits. Like, you know, Phoebus is putting some kids out there. You know, Bethel had the kid at Notre Dame. But, like, overall, it's not. Bro, let me tell you. When I was a sophomore playing at Bethel, the senior class of just Bethel High School sent kids to the Carolina, East Carolina, Wake Forest, A&T, golly. I mean, it's just Bethel, class of 85. And I know I'm forgetting some people. Then you can go to Hampton and you had Linwood Lumpkins with the UVA, Leslie Bailey went to Virginia Tech. Bro, right down the street, you had Ray Savage going to UVA. I mean, within a 6-mile radius, all these Division I athletes, all Americans, players of the year, Terry Kirby down the street from Bethel.
Right.
And it just looks like we're not doing it. I know it's landlocked. They don't build as many houses. We're not producing new high schools. Up here where we are, Kirk and I, there's a new high school being built every other year. It's opening up. So what do you think? And another thing, and if you've heard one of my other podcasts, the facilities, I mean, I go home, Darling Stadium still has a grass field. Up here, my son, when he used to play at Colgan, had 2 turf fields, bro, a practice and a game. And I'm like, 4 high schools are sharing Darling Stadium, 5 are sharing Todd Stadium, and they're playing on a grass field that's going to get torn up. And with the athletes they have, that'd be a fast track. So I'm talking facilities, and then just go to the high school, look at their practice fields. You know?
Right.
So I don't know. Those are my perspective.
You hit on some good things. I mean, one of the things that we were concerned about was when they were going to have the Oscar Smith Phoebus game, they're talking about taking it to Darling. I said, where are people going to park at Darling? Why would you have it at Darling? Nobody, you can't fit nobody over in Darling. You'll have people all in the communities and everything like that. So you're right, though. How can you not have those fields are being used Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the time and getting torn? There's no turf. How much would it really to put down a turf field at Darling and a turf field at Todd Stadium? I mean,
you can put down a turf field really fast. It's just a matter of money.
And for them not to have it is bad. It's bad. You want your athletes to play on the best of the best, and right now it's not happening. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. The South Side just keeps getting stronger. The more schools, I mean, not more schools, but more the communities are expanding and growing. And, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with the Peninsula.
Growing up for us, it was our side of the water played football. That side was basketball. You had the great Booker T basketball teams. You had more athletes, J.R. Reed, Alonzo Mourning, and then we were like, they're basketball. We're football.
Right. Now it's
Yeah,
now
so
it's yeah.
Yeah, Boo Williams used to always say when he had his tryouts and it was not the mega league that it is now, I remember him saying, hey, you guys better Peninsula. The guys from the other side of the water are coming tomorrow. That's the real competition. But of course, Hampton won a state championship in the late 90s, and Peninsula District basketball has gotten really good.
Yeah.
So why don't we pivot to, we got a lot of Virginia fans. Tech is down this year. UVA's got a great game in Pitt that they could take control of the Coastal in the ACC. What's your outlook on that? Pitt's coming into UVA. It's going to be a big game. They're going to have a lot of recruits there. I believe, and you probably have your fingers on it more, that Armstrong, the quarterback, the left-handed quarterback, is so good. I believe he's still out. So what are your thoughts on that game?
Well, if he doesn't play, we saw what happened when they played against Notre Dame.
Right.
Virginia could have put on a much better showing, So, now they got Pitt coming in. What you going to do against them? You don't have another good showing, and you lose that game, and then you play against Virginia Tech, who's down, and we know how Virginia Tech has dominated that series. That could be, here you are, Virginia this high, they could fall.
Yeah.
And so I think these games are really, I think these games are very, very pivotal right now for Virginia. And if Virginia can't beat Virginia Tech this year, that would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what, though? I'm just, Rusty, I'm sorry. That's going to be a tough out for UVA because Tech is down and the game is at UVA and they're going to be playing for pride. And I think that's going to be a tough out for UVA. But I think this weekend, it's going to be another sellout crowd. It's going to be a big one. And, if Brendan Armstrong does not play, I'm sorry, but I see Pitt taking that game and taking the Coastal. And quite frankly, Pitt's already beaten Clemson, which, in my opinion, it's hard to beat a team twice. But I think Wake is in the driver's seat to win the Atlantic. So it's looking like Wake and Pittsburgh, but who knows with UVA. We want to pivot over. We know you cover JMU also, and there's a lot of JMU fans. JMU has blown up since we went to school. Go ahead, Rusty.
So I just want to say, and we got a lot of topics. So we'll start to go rapid fire, but there's three things I want to touch on. Tell us quickly your thoughts on Liberty. They had a great season last year. They got a possible first pick at quarterback. The new ODU coaching staff, and then JMU, who's dominated the CAA at the national level, and your thoughts on JMU moving up to the Sun Belt and Group 5.
So I'll start with Liberty. First of all, as Kirk said, the facilities are immaculate. Oh my goodness, and they got one of the best cafeterias in the country. I mean, my son went to Liberty. That food is good at Liberty. But
okay, that's important.
You gotta get them in there. But the facilities, the money they put into that campus. Oh my! Every time you turn around, there's a new building, and I think they just finished that athletic only building.
They got a football only facility.
I mean,
and that's indoor track.
Indoor track is one of the best in the country. I mean, so they're really booming, and now I'm waiting to see what's going to happen to them because here they are. Who are you going to play now? Have they already been committed to go to the Sun Belt or no? No, they're going to the.
They're not Sun Belt.
Yeah, not the Sun Belt. They're in the Well, anyways, just talking about them to have that kid that they have at quarterback right now, who everybody's saying could do it all. He's gonna probably be a first round pick, if not definitely second round. They're really putting it on. If you think about it, they've been trying to recruit this area slowly but surely. They're getting players to go there, but they can't get players to stay there. They've had at least 3 or 4 kids who have started out there and they left and came here. So you just wonder, are they for real? I guess that's the question. Are they for? When you look at them when they play against some of the really big teams, they're not. They didn't play well against some of the really, really big teams. So I kind of like in that. Where do they go? Where do they go from here? So I don't know what's going to happen with Liberty, but the facilities look great. They got some great facilities. You talk about ODU. I tell you what, Ricky Raby, what he's been able to do, he finally got to play a game this year. And
they didn't play.
They didn't play it all.
Right.
And so here he is coming in, a new coach to take over, and you can't even do anything. So he's trying to be able to recruit the area. he's done an incredible job in terms of getting 757 players to come there. He's got, in fact, he got the kid from Oscar Smith. He's got a couple other Oscar Smith kids there. The one thing that I don't think the previous did, they didn't really hit 757 hard. And I would talk to coaches and he would say, man, I would talk to the Lake Taylors, I would talk to the Oscar Smiths, I would talk to the Ocean Lakes. The old regime wanted to get the 5-star players. You're not gonna get the 5-star players to come to ODU. You might not even get the 4-star players, but you got to hit those other stars, the 3 stars and the 2 stars, or the kids you think that are 2 stars that could be a big time player. But Ricky, he's really done a good job recruiting, and he's got them believing if they win out the last 2 games, they'll be bowl eligible. So
wow.
I mean,
that's, Larry,
that's huge.
They are up here. They are recruiting like crazy up here.
Oh, the DC area. Oh, yeah. They're hitting
Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
ODU, I think, it looks like they're on the right track.
Yes.
My son was supposed to go on a recruiting game there last week, but then when Penn State called, he was like, okay, we'll go there.
Right.
It would have been nice for ODU to have played during the COVID season because it could have been like that spring practice. Like, they had a chance to just play for the coach to kind of figure some things out. So I like where they're going because those first couple of games, like you're already behind, having not played a 2021 earlier or this year or last year. And so you're figuring things out. So it looks like they're on the right track. Lastly, we want to talk about JMU. And I want to ask you about this. How do you feel? Okay, so I'm gonna let you answer, then I'm gonna tell you how I feel. What do you think about JMU making the move?
I like it. They've dominated. They've done all they can do at the level that as a FCS school. Now they got a chance to be able to play with the big dogs, and you throw in the fact that ODU JMU rivalry is going to be something nice. And I went to the game last week where they went up there and played against William & Mary. And even though William & Mary started to come back at the end, you can see that JMU kind of overpowered them. Now they get a chance to move up to that next level to see how good they really are. I think they're going to do well, especially if they keep recruiting it. I can't say it enough. The way they recruit Virginia 757, the athletes they keep bringing in there. I mean, you're going to try to tell me that JMU can't compete? Now they can't compete with the real big dogs, but I think they're going to do well where they are, and I think they're going to do well in that conference. In fact, I talked to a couple of players about moving to that next level, and they're excited. They're like, okay, hey, now we got a chance to be able to play, play for a bowl game now. We got a chance to be able to move up to that next level. And then several of those kids who are from the 757 said they can't wait to be able to come play at ODU now. And it just, I think in your mind when you're recruiting now, you can tell kids, you're not just coming to JMU, you're coming to a school that has a chance to be able to play for a bowl game. And the schools in the conference now, I think it's going to be better as well because the names that some of the kids know, some of the schools that were in the conference that ODU used to be in, you don't want to go to that type of a conference. But I think JMU now going to this conference and the names that kids recognize these names that are going, and I think it's going to be exciting. I think it was a good move. I like it. I'm glad.
I think they'll be on television more too, which is a big selling point with the recruiting. And I was just going to say, they got a lot of room for expansion. So if you look at their home side and you look at their visitor side, JMU, I think, has the funding to do the same thing on the other side. Go ahead, Rusty.
No, so everything you said is legit, but I'll say that I've kind of had this argument about that move, and I was saying this before because my cousin's a big ODU fan. I get the move, wanted to, and JMU has done everything they can,
right?
But I also think this, like when you're not in a Power 5 conference, what are you playing for? And I'm just saying, you're like you said, you're playing for a bowl game or you're playing for the right to play some of the bigger teams. Right. I'm like, if I'm putting up national championships, like that's something. I'm just disappointed. Maybe if they expand the playoffs, and you can get some of these Group 5 teams in. Like I'm just the type, I don't like when a UCF, a Liberty, or anybody goes undefeated or one loss and just has no chance. Like as a coach, I want to win championships. And so I'm telling these kids that have worked hard all spring, all summer, you know what, son? No matter what you do, you'll never be more than a conference champ or a bowl game. You can't win a national championship. So what they should do is Group 5 should start their own national championship, just like you got a 1AA champ, or they got to expand the playoffs because, we know they will probably seed Coastal Carolina against Alabama. It'd be a blowout, but figure something out because you want that's part of the magic of basketball in the tournament.
Yeah. Now, I remember when ODU made the move, people said, "Hey, that was a little too quick, wasn't it? That was a little too quick." But JMU has been, knocking on the door, and knocked the door down.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think as the coaching staff as well as the players kept thinking, let's see if we can. People say we can't play with those teams. Well, let's give us a chance to be able to play with those teams. But I think the playoff thing is going to definitely expand probably from 4 to 8 to probably who knows how many they're going to have in there. So
12 will work. I'll take 12. I would like 16.
Yeah.
But if you get 12, what we won't get in the first round is you give the top 4.
It's like a play-in.
A bye.
So
Yeah.
Get Alabama or Coastal Carolina in the first round.
Right.
But what you'll get is 5 and 12. Let them play. And let's see.
Right.
If that number 5 team is Cincinnati and Cincinnati's going up against JMU. Now let's see what we got. Okay.
The other thing is the impact of 20 more scholarships. You get that at the next level, you can change that. You get 20 more kids in there. You got a better shot of getting, a Charles Haley, some of the Gary Clark's great players. But Rusty, I think you were about to announce our winding down.
Yeah. Larry, so this is exactly what I thought it would be. We could do this for hours. So we know we got to get you back, bro.
Oh, yeah, anytime. You guys let me know.
Been amazing. Look, Kirk, this is what we did on the sideline of my nephew's game. Like, we just doing this. And look, I'm a fan too, man. Like, I'm like, I'm talking to Larry. He's like, I say something, he might agree. Like, so, okay. Man, if I can get Larry Rubama to agree with any of my sports takes, okay, I'm balling.
Rusty, let's finish with this. Let's finish with the conversation that we had. First Hampton Roads sports franchise.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Oh man, it's tough. Here's my thing. Because we thought at one time it was going to be baseball wouldn't make it here. The one that I think would make it here would be football. But here's why: there's less games. There's only a few games, and I think the city could support those few games. But I'll see basketball being able to, because it's such a basketball area. But would this area support that team throughout the whole year? Football would be good because, you got what, 8 games at home? Yeah, we can support that. Yeah, we can support that. But the biggest reason why we're not going to get a team is the 7 cities can't get along. Who's going to get the money? Well, if we give this, and that's the biggest.
What are they going to be called?
Yeah. They don't put no money for it, but if you get it, we'll take some money. We'll take some money. So I think football, and I think football is such a huge thing here. In terms of both high school, college, and pro, it's such a big thing. I think that people would come out. I think, and then it being, Virginia Beach, touristy type area, you get those type of people coming in, almost like a Vegas type thing where people come
yeah.
And then you got all the military here who love sports. I mean, there's no one team. Well, I hate to say the Cowboys is huge here, but unfortunately, but I think that this area to support a football team, I think they could do it. What do you got?
Yeah, I think they could put the fans in the seats.
Right.
The luxury suites is way different than basketball and hockey.
Exactly.
By the way, hockey might be one of them. Raleigh got hockey also. But you look at the suites, there's 2 levels of suites, and there's a club section in almost every football stadium.
Yeah, and
those are corporate sponsors. You would have to go out of there. You'd have to get Richmond. And this is a subject we could talk on a long time. We definitely have to have you back on. And it was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Very fun.
Anytime. But you're right, Kirk. That's the money part. The fans will come, but what you going to do about that money that really brings it in?
Yeah, and you need that sponsor, but also the way these stadiums are being built, can we build a stadium like they built in LA or in Dallas or in Vegas?
No.
It's a whole nother level to what these stadiums are costing now. And who's going to pay for it? The
That's right.
taxpayers.
Got it.
We don't have
taxpayers.
We called the Hilliard and Byrd Stadium. Y'all got money to be able to make that thing happen.
We get some of that Larry Rubama money, man. Well, look, Larry, okay, you have been awesome. So last thing I do, because I want our fans to know a little bit more, we normally have a couple of personal questions, but let's just ask you one. All right, okay. one, and we'll get you back up here. Let us know, what is your favorite maybe movie of all time? Doesn't have to be sports. Or what is a show you like to watch, maybe that you binge watch or you stream or you watch on TV?
Don't laugh, but one of my favorite movies is The Notebook.
Okay.
All right.
My wife and I'm
The Notebook.
Yeah.
All right.
I know that came from left field. I know, but that movie.
No, it's good.
It just hits me. There's so many things that go into that you see, and it's like, oh man, that's good.
Yeah.
I watch whatever my wife watches. I just go to keep her company. But I'm trying to think. TV show that I really, really like. I do like Blackish. I like the thing with family. I forgot one of my favorite shows. I watch it every week. Blue Bloods. Oh, I love it. The family dinners, the family concept. We miss that. We don't see that anymore. And so we watch Blue Bloods every single Friday, even if it's a repeat. I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Blue Bloods.
What about you, Kirk? Kirk.
Oh, everybody knows it. Remember the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Goodfellas.
Oh, yeah.
As far as shows, I actually watch the Wednesday trio, but I don't watch them on Wednesday. Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, and Chicago Police. Mm-hmm. Those are all by Dick Wolf, Law and Order. And then binge watching is The Wire, the best cinema ever. And then Ozark, and there's some others, but Last Chance U.
Yeah, all Last Chance U. Yeah. So for me, I've said this before, but I love Hoop Dreams. Steve James is actually from Hampton, played basketball at Hampton High School. That was the first documentary that we see now all the time. Yeah. But him following Arthur A.G. William Gates. And I also love the 30 for 30 he did on Allen Iverson. And then so also my other ones, my wife would always tell you, I liked remember Titans, but no, this is one I like it, but it makes me cry every time, and that is Rudy. Every time Rudy makes that sack, man, I'm like, okay. So
my allergies.
I'm good, And then I just like to watch a lot of the my wife and I, we're watching the FBI's, we're watching CSI, all those type of things. So and I like to watch the Netflix shows, especially the reality Last Year and all that. So good stuff, Larry, man. Thank you so much, bro.
Anytime, guys. You just let me know anytime. I'll be on here with you guys. I loved it. This was fun.
Yeah, so you could tell everybody, Larry, it's the Kirk and Byrd BYRD show on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell icon. They'll get a notification on their phone that there's a new interview or a new show coming up. And then we are audio only on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google as a podcast. And then a lot of the kids athletes are on Twitter. That's the NCAA. We are the Kirk and Byrd. At the Kirk and Byrd, the Kirk and Byrd, BYRD on Twitter. Our followers are growing. And Rusty, we're going to be coming back with very soon a high school overview of the weekend. So look out for that. We'll be covering all the games. Things are going to begin to crystallize. We will have the regional finals. We'll be down to 8. And then the week after that, 4. And then we'll have the state championships at ODU, Liberty, and I'm not sure where the 1 and 2 is. But Larry, thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, maybe next time we'll narrow it down to 2 or 3 topics and really go into it. All right.
Well, hey, Larry, one last thing. Tell us, do you have something you want to promote? You have a show? Do you have any particular column you want people to check out?
People follow me at Twitter, at LH Rubama on Twitter. And then we also have 757 Teams, TEAMZ.
Got that.
You want to see how we cover and what we cover, and that's about it. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, man. It has been a pleasure. You did not disappoint. But look, y'all. Hey, Mom, I made it. I made it, Mom. I'm talking to Larry Rubama, Mom. Look, I made it.
That's right.
We don't do another show. I'm done. I'm done.
All right.
Thanks, bro. Hey, God bless you, man. You have been
You
awesome.
too. Anytime, guys. Anytime.
All right, cool. And Kirk and Byrd we're out.
We are out.